Today we're going to talk about relationships, but not individual interpersonal relationships. You know, the kind between a man and a woman or a parent and a child. I'm talking about the relationship between a nation and a portion of its populace, particularly America and its black citizens. This is a relationship that we're all in for better or for worse. But this is not your typical marriage. Both parties didn't choose to be here. There's been no exchange of vows or kissing of brides. Hell, there hasn't even been any wooing or dating. No one was asked out or even flirted with. For most of us, we were born into this relationship. Child brides who from the beginning were groomed to love this country unconditionally. We've been told from day one that everything that this country does is for us and that all its evils are necessary. Our schools and parents and television shows and cartoons taught us that this is a great nation founded by men who just wanted freedom, freedom to worship and prosper, freedom from evil and tyranny, freedom for all men who are created equal and should be treated as such. We're taught from a young age that these truths were written into the Declaration of Independence and that we have a constitution and a government with three branches to check and balance each other and ensure that these freedoms remain intact forever. Then, as we get a little older, we're told, okay, maybe these freedoms weren't guaranteed for everyone from the beginning, but America fought valiantly in a bloody civil war to ensure that these rights were recognized for all. Then we're told, well, okay, black people couldn't exactly exercise their freedoms throughout this country until it was nearly 200 years old. But it's okay, we've gotten it together. The list of transgressions goes on and on and on and on. And we're assured over and over and over and over that each time was the last time. America is the husband who gets caught cheating time and time again and assures us that every unfaithful step against this marriage is a one time thing. Slavery, America says, we were young, we're sorry, and we didn't know any better. We'll never do that again. Lynching, America proclaims, that was disgusting. So wrong of us. Forgive us. We'll never let that happen again. State forces turning attack dogs and water hoses on crowds of nonviolent marchers simply fighting for the rights they have been repeatedly told that they already have. America says that was an aberration. We're so ashamed. We should have never let it get that far. Yet here we are in 2018, mass incarceration with hundreds of thousands of black Americans engaged in state sponsored forced labor. Slavery is back. Hundreds of thousands of extrajudicial public executions at the hands of the police, filmed for replay to the masses over and over and over again every single year. Lynchings are back. Heavily armed police forces unleashing attack dogs and pepper spray and rubber bullets on masses, fighting for their rights to be recognized in cities all over this country. Jim Crow is back. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me over and over and over again, and it speaks to a much deeper level of dysfunction. There's a word for a relationship that is so one sided and fraught with mistreatment and neglect and outright disrespect that it seems foolish and dangerous for one party to stay. That word is abusive. My black people, we are in an abusive relationship with America. But what exactly does that mean? Well, let's look at some of the indicators of an abusive relationship and decide whether we see them in our relationship with America. Although I'm sure we all know the answer to that. The most commonly recognized type of abuse in a relationship is physical. One party physically harms or threatens to harm the other. When we hear the words abuse, this is what most people think of. Sometimes the abused are held against their will. Sometimes the abused is prevented from doing what they want or going where they wish. This even applies to everyday so called normal behavior. The abuser controls the behavior of the abused and will go to great ends to punish any independent thought or behavior. Let's see if this applies to America's relationship with black people. Innocent, untried black men and women murdered by the police. Physical abuse. Police brutality, physical abuse. Being locked up for petty crimes with an unfair, unconscionable bail system. Physical abuse. Mysterious injuries and deaths in jail cells and police custody. Physical abuse. Unnecessary probation that restricts every behavior and freedom to travel. Physical abuse. School to prison pipeline, physical abuse. Slavery was abuse. Lynchings were abuse. Water hoses and attack dogs being sicked on innocent marchers was abuse. All of those things have evolved, but they still go on. I don't think there's any question that America, from the beginning, was built on the physical abuse of black people, and it's never really stopped. America's justice system has always been a weapon in the attack on blackness, and it continues to be. Another recognized, easily identifiable type of abuse is emotional. This is accomplished most often through insults and belittling. It is done with gaslighting and guilt trips. It creates a sense of inferiority in the mind of the abused. It inspires within the abused a feeling of unworthiness, like they don't deserve more and wouldn't be able to attain or obtain more even if they did. We all know the obvious ways America has done this to the black man. They used to call us niggers, monkeys, coons. Now they use words like ghetto, thug, gangbanger. They grade us more harshly than our counterparts at school. They use culturally biased testing and metrics. They stereotype. The media focuses on our struggles, ignoring our triumphs. They inundate our movies and television shows with images of us as criminals, slaves, servants, charity cases, and drug abusers. When they show us on the news, they find the least articulate black person they can, then they joke about it and make memes of them. And we join right in. They emotionally abuse us by telling us our pain isn't real. They do this every time they deny racism, every time they deny police brutality, every time they try to deflect on their atrocities with cries of, what about black on black crime, or accusations of reverse racism. And we see the effects on so many of our brothers and sisters who feel worthless, who feel incapable of achieving more, who refuse to aspire to a higher level, who mimic the invalid accusations of black on black crime, who are ashamed of being black, who are ashamed of their neighborhoods, their families, their friends, their skin, their hair, who think black is an insult and African American or more or indigenous or any other label is a compliment. Way too many of us have been beat down and worn out by this siege of emotional brutality with which we are confronted every day. Another type of abuse is control and coercion. Abusers use whatever means are at their disposal, whatever elements they have power over, to prevent their victims from exercising dominion or autonomy over their own actions and behaviors. This is sort of do what I tell you to do, or there will be consequences. This plays out many ways for black people in America. But seeing that this is a capitalist system and we can't eat, drink, sleep, or anything else unless we can afford to, the coercion and control are most often tied to money. Straighten your hair, cut your dreads, or you won't have a job. Give your child a good Christian name like John or Luke, or they'll never even get their resume reviewed. Too poor to find a place to live? Struggling to make ends meet? Go down to the local prosecutor's office and fill out these child support papers, or you can't benefit from the tax money that we collected from you and your friends and your family to help you survive. Any type of assistance or opportunity in America is based on doing what we're told by people who either believe we are inferior or want us to be inferior. A great majority of our struggles are based on poverty or racism, and almost every way out is based on our willingness to let those in power dictate our terms. Our principles are dictated to us. We're told how to look, how to dress, how to act. We're judged for, and our progress is based largely on our acquiescence to whiteness and our proximity to Eurocentrism, as opposed to our character and humanly qualities. This is control and coercion. This is abuse. Black people in America are isolated, intimidated, threatened, coerced, minimized, blamed, belittled, broken down, and broken in. And when we try to break out, we get broke off and our homes get broken up. We're in prison physically, mentally, and emotionally. Our love for our children is used against us. Our need to survive is used against us. Our communities are occupied by armed interlopers. Our ways out are dictated to us, and in reality, just lead us deeper into America's web of abuse and control. Our principles and dreams and goals and ideal characteristics are dictated to us by groups of people who don't have our best interest at heart, who just see us as another means to their own greed and dominance. Our reliance on them feeds their power and their ego. But what can we do? How do we free ourselves and escape these racist American chains? What can black people do to break this cycle of abuse and dependency? First, we must decide we've had enough. We must look at our scars and bruises and say enough. We must look at our incarcerated brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and sons and daughters and say enough. We must look at our fragile, emotionally battered youth and say enough. We must look at the inadequacies of the American systems and tools of abuse, the educational system, the healthcare system, the political system, the economic system, and the so-called justice system. And we must say enough. We have to tell ourselves as individuals we've had enough. We must tell each other as our only true support system we've had enough. Then we tell those who are abusing us we've had enough. We tell them in whatever language they speak. We don't just tell them with letters and petitions and boycotts and marches. We tell them in whatever language they speak. Politicians speak votes and donations. Judges and juries and prosecutors speak cooperation and funding. Private employers and companies speak money and patronage. Educators have a tendency to listen when there's a group of parents showing up every day, making their lives difficult. Imagine an employer losing 30, 40, 50% of his workforce at the same time and not listening to their demands. Imagine if every other patient told their doctor that they're only interested in natural alternatives to prescription medication and that they'll find a healer who is educated on the likes. Here's the catch, because there's always a catch. There's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that fear impedes progress. Marginalized people live in fear. What if I don't show up to work and all of my black coworkers do? I can't afford to get fired. What if my child is punished because I push back against the unfair education system? What if the criminal justice system stops protecting my neighborhood, as if they really protect black neighborhoods? What if we withdraw support from a candidate and the greater of two evils wins the election? All of these are valid fears. All of these are valid reasons to question whether progress is worth the risks it will require. The reality and validity of those fears is the bad news. The good news is that we can beat those fears. Proper preparation removes fear. Proper preparation alleviates doubt. Proper preparation relieves insecurity. We don't just wake up one morning and say, nobody go to work today, or nobody show up to court today. We don't just decide today is the day I march down to the school, and if you're coming with me, cool. We develop a plan first. We harness our resources first. We create our own unemployment insurance plan first. We develop our own political candidates. We empower our own neighborhood security forces. We start growing our own food. We start learning different ways of treating our illnesses. We create our own school curricula and start schooling our children together. We build our businesses so that we may employ each other. Next thing you know, we don't need the system because we have our own. So it either acquiesces to our needs or it learns to survive without us. Either we're invited to sit down at the table of American power as equals or we feast alone. But let's be honest. Would you rather be invited to an American potluck without black dishes or a black potluck without America's bland palate? I know which I have a taste for. What about you?